The day Marcus wore his old coat to school, the other parents noticed. They always did. He stood at the school gate every morning, holding his daughter's hand, wearing the same faded brown coat he had worn for 3 years. His shoes had a small crack on the left side. His hair was always neat, but his clothes told a different story. The other parents stood in small groups, dressed in clean jackets and pressed shirts. They talked about vacations and new cars. They laughed loudly. And when Marcus walked past, the talking would slow down, just for a second, before they turned away. His daughter, Lily, was 9 years old. She had bright eyes and a ponytail that bounced when she walked. She always held her father's hand tight until the last possible moment, right before the school doors opened. "Have a great day, sweetheart," Marcus would say. "You too, Dad," she would whisper. Then she would walk inside, and Marcus would stand there for one quiet moment before turning around and heading back down the street. Nobody said good morning to him. Nobody asked his name. He was just the poor dad in the old coat. Or so they thought. Lily loved her father more than anything in the world. But school was starting to feel different. Her best friend, Sophie, had started sitting with a new group of girls at lunch. These girls wore matching hair clips and brought store-bought cupcakes on their birthdays. They talked about their parents' jobs like it was something to be proud of. "My dad is a lawyer," one girl said. "My mom runs her own salon," said another. When they looked at Lily, she smiled. But she didn't say anything about her father. She didn't know how to explain to him in a way that sounded good enough. At home, their apartment was small but clean. Marcus cooked dinner every night. Simple meals: rice, soup, eggs, sometimes pasta. He helped Lily with her homework at the kitchen table under a lamp that flickered when the wind blew outside. He never complained. He never seemed tired. He just showed up, every single day, steady and quiet like a wall that would never fall. But Lily was 9, and 9-year-olds noticed things. She noticed the way the other parents never waved at her dad. She noticed how Sophie's mother once looked at Marcus and then looked away without smiling. And slowly, quietly, she began to feel a small and painful thing: shame. She didn't want to feel it. But it was there. The school was called Greenfield Academy. It was one of the nicest schools in the neighborhood, with a big front garden and tall windows that caught the morning light. Marcus had enrolled Lily there 2 years ago. The teachers were excellent. The programs were strong. He had wanted the best for her, and somehow, he had made it work. What nobody knew was how. The school principal was a kind woman named Mrs. Carter. She had short gray hair and glasses that sat low on her nose. She greeted every child by name. She knew which kids loved art and which ones struggled with reading. Every month, she received a small note. It was handwritten, in careful, clear letters. It was always signed the same way, simply, with the initials M.A. The note would say things like, "Please check on the library books for the younger classes." Or, "The playground bench near the oak tree needs to be fixed before winter." Mrs. Carter always followed the notes. She never told anyone where the instructions came from. She had been asked not to. And the school ran beautifully. Nobody connected the quiet man at the gate to any of it. Why would they? He looked like someone who needed help, not someone who gave it. One Tuesday afternoon, Sophie came to Lily's house for a play date. It was the first time Sophie had visited. Lily had been nervous about it all day. She cleaned her room twice. She asked her father to make sure the kitchen was tidy. Marcus smiled and said, "It always is." Sophie arrived and looked around the apartment quietly. She didn't say anything mean. She was actually a kind girl. But at school the next day, she said something small to the group of girls at lunch. "Lily's apartment is really tiny." She didn't mean it cruelly. But the other girls laughed. Lily heard it from 2 tables away. She felt the color rise in her face. She looked down at her food and didn't finish it. That afternoon, when Marcus picked her up, she didn't reach for his hand like she usually did. She walked beside him, just a little bit apart. Marcus noticed. He always noticed. But he said nothing. He waited. That evening, after dinner, Lily sat at the kitchen table and said, without looking up, "Dad, why don't we have more things? Like, why don't we have a bigger place?" Marcus was quiet for a moment. Then he sat down across from her. "What brought this on?" he asked. She shrugged. "Nothing." But her eyes were wet. Marcus reached across the table and covered her hand with his. "Lily," he said gently. "I'm going to tell you something, and I want you to really hear it." She looked up. "Things are not the same as worth," he said. "A big apartment doesn't mean a big life. And a small one doesn't mean a small person." Lily wiped her eye quickly, like she was trying to hide it. "But nobody at school likes you, Dad," she whispered. "The other parents don't even talk to you." Marcus was quiet for a moment. Something moved behind his eyes, not hurt, but understanding. "That's their choice," he said simply. "And it says more about them than it does about me. But doesn't it bother you?" He smiled. A real, slow smile. "I used to let it," he said. "A long time ago. But I learned something. The most important person who needs to believe in you, is you." Lily didn't fully understand it yet. But she held on to the words. That night, she heard her father on the phone after she went to bed. His voice was low but clear. He was talking about contractors. And budget approvals. And something called a Phase 2 renovation. She didn't know what any of it meant. She turned over and closed her eyes. A few weeks later, the school sent home a letter. It said that Greenfield Academy would be going through some exciting upgrades. A new science lab. A renovated library. New computers for every classroom. The letter thanked a generous private donor for making it all possible. The parents buzzed with excitement at the gate the next morning. "Do you know who donated?" one mother asked. "No, it's anonymous," said another. "But it must be someone wealthy. Maybe someone connected to the board." They guessed lawyers, doctors, CEOs. Marcus stood slightly to the side, watching. He said nothing. Mrs. Carter walked out that morning to greet the parents, as she sometimes did. She walked past the groups of well-dressed adults, smiling and nodding. Then she stopped beside Marcus. "Good morning," she said warmly, and shook his hand. A few parents turned to look. "Good morning, Patricia," Marcus said. Mrs. Carter smiled like she was greeting an old friend, because she was. She moved on. But the parents who saw it exchanged quiet glances. Something about that moment didn't add up for them. They just didn't know what. The renovations began the following month. Workers arrived with equipment. The old library shelves were replaced. The science lab got new tables and bright lights. The hallways were repainted in warm, welcoming colors. Lily loved it. Every day she came home with something new to describe. "Dad, the library has a whole new reading corner with soft chairs. Dad, the computers actually work now." Marcus listened and smiled and asked questions. He seemed genuinely happy. Not proud, just happy. But one afternoon, something happened that changed everything. Lily had forgotten her lunchbox and Marcus came to drop it off. He signed in at the front desk, as any parent would. But as he walked down the hall, he passed a framed photo on the wall. It was a photo of the school when it first opened, 30 years ago. And standing in front of the building, young and smiling, was a man who looked very familiar. Older now. Quieter now. In a faded brown coat. But the same eyes. Sophie's mother happened to be walking past at that moment, dropping off a permission slip. She stopped and looked at the photo. Then she looked at Marcus. She looked at the photo again. Her mouth opened slightly. Word travels fast in a school community. By the next morning, the parents at the gate were different. The whispering had changed its direction. Sophie's mother, whose name was Diana, had gone home and searched online. It hadn't taken long. The Academy's founding records were public. And the name connected to the private family trust that had owned the building for 3 decades was there in plain text. Marcus Aldrin. The same MA from Mrs. Carter's notes. Diana arrived at school early that morning. When she saw Marcus, she walked straight toward him. Her face was unreadable. "Mr. Aldrin," she said. He turned. "You own this school," she said. It wasn't a question. He looked at her calmly. "My family built it." "Yes. But you stand here every morning like a father dropping off his daughter," he said quietly. "Because that's what I am." Diana stared at him. Around them, other parents had gone still, listening. "Why didn't you say anything?" she asked. Marcus looked at her for a long moment. Then he looked around at the other faces that had ignored him for 2 years. "Would it have mattered?" he said. "Before today?" Nobody answered. Because they all knew the truth. Lily found out at lunch. Sophie came running across the cafeteria with wide eyes. "Lily, everyone is saying your dad owns the school." Lily put down her fork. "What? Like, actually owns it? My mom called my dad this morning and, is it true?" Lily sat very still. She didn't know what to say. Because the truth was, she didn't fully understand it herself. That afternoon, Marcus was waiting at the gate as always. Lily walked out and looked at him for a long moment, searching his face like she was seeing something new. "Why didn't you tell me?" she asked. He took a slow breath. "Because I didn't want that to be the reason you felt proud of me." Her eyes filled up. "Dad. I wanted you to know me as your father first. Just a dad. The rest of it, that's just business. That's just a building." He knelt down to her level. "You, Lily, you're the thing I'm actually proud of." She threw her arms around his neck. He held her for a long time, right there at the school gate, in his old brown coat. And this time, nobody looked away. Things changed after that. But not in the way you might expect. Marcus didn't suddenly start dressing differently. He still wore the same coat for the rest of the season. He still stood at the gate every morning, quiet and steady. But now, people said good morning. Diana apologized to him one Thursday. She said it simply and sincerely. Marcus accepted it the same way. Mrs. Carter quietly told a few of the staff what Marcus had done over the years, the anonymous notes, the repairs, the donations, the library books. He had been taking care of the school from the shadows for a long time. Lily never forgot the lesson from that period of her life. Not the part about her dad owning a building. That part was surprising, but it wasn't the real story. The real story was about a man who could have walked into that school and demanded respect at any time, but chose instead to earn love, slowly, quietly, without needing anyone to see him. She thought about that for years. When she was grown, she would tell her own children about a father who taught her that real strength doesn't announce itself. It just shows up, every single day, in an old coat, holding your hand a little tighter at the gate. Because love was never about what you could prove. It was about what you did when nobody was looking.